Hello everybody, my name's Chris and welcome to Retro Ratchet. So I've got a super rare TVR for you guys today. It's a Tasmin fixed head coupe. These were produced between 1981 and 1983. This is a 1983 model and it's fitted with Ford's 2.8 V6 engine. So if you want to find out what it's like, then stay tuned. Right, I mean this thing is beautiful. Check these lines out. I mean these were affectionately known as the wedge for this reason. And when you do look at it from this angle, it does look like the early Lotus Esprits, so certainly in my opinion. This coupe style, I think, totally transforms the look of these wedges. And looking from the back, you know, you've got this little extra piece of glass down here. You've got your twin exhaust, I mean they do stick out quite far. And you've got these little air vents drilled through the bottom of the bumper. So it's a very, very unusual looking car. So yeah, the Tasmin coupe I think is all about style. Red's the best colour for it, and you've got this black pinstripe that runs along the side with the Tasmin graphics on it there. Got 15-inch alloys. They don't actually look that small, and the cross-spoke design I think suits it down to a T. Bonnet, a couple of extra air vents in it there, which do make it look actually pretty sporty, but there is a lot of nice design features on this car. But yeah, it totally stands out, and if you weren't familiar with these, you probably wouldn't be able to identify it straight away because they are so rare. So let's take a wee look inside. Now this particular one has had a retrim. TVR retrims do tend to be quite brightly coloured. So this is a two-tone combination, you know, red and cream. Carpets have been done, dashboard's been done, and the roof lining looks like it's also been redone because that is absolutely immaculate, as have the door trims. Right, let's check out this dashboard. So you've got quite an unusual combination here of the wood veneer and you've got the two-tone leather there. Quite a few dials, speedometer, rev counter, engine temperature, your fuel level. You've got your oil pressure and your battery volts, and then you've got various warning lights dotted around. And then the centre console kind of sticks out a little bit here. We do have an immobiliser on this one. And these are quite cool, these switches. You know, that's for your lights there. That's then back down. Heated rear window, fog lights. This is an aftermarket CD player that's been fitted in there. But it's all very, very nicely trimmed out. It's actually a reasonably comfortable place to be. So this one is just a two-seater version. You did get 2+2s, and looking in the back there is tons of space to actually put all your luggage if you happen to be going away in it. So being a fixed head coupe, it is quite a practical one to have. Right, let's take a wee look under the bonnet. And unfortunately on this occasion we don't have a V8. So it hinged open beautifully on those shocks there. This has obviously all been retrimmed, this sound deadening, and you guys will probably recognise the Ford 2.8 Cologne engine in there. These were later used in the Capri and Granada. I think in this form it's 145 brake horsepower. Fuel injected, you can see the meter and head there. It is quite a busy engine bay. Access actually isn't that great. It's quite a narrow engine bay between the frame there. So I think things like exhaust manifolds would probably be quite difficult to get to. Certainly in like the Capris and Granadas, there is a lot more space in here. Yeah, so they're a decent engine, these, and I believe slightly later on in the production, they made the frame a tiny little bit larger and they managed to fit a V8 in there. Don't put in the comments if I've got that wrong. Right guys, so what's it like driving a TVR Tasmin fixed head coupe? very unusual, I have to say. It's the first time I've ever driven one of these. I've obviously driven a host of Chimera. I've just driven the 430 Pre-Cat Griff, and this seems to be a whole different ball game, this one. It's obviously a lot older. This is a 1983 car, and it is interesting. You can see how they've evolved over the years in terms of their design and how they drive. So I think let's start with the driving position. Steering wheel seems to be in a kind of similar position for me, so that's set up kind of the same. The pedals are a lot further out. Now with the pedals, it's kind of unusual. The accelerator has the largest amount of throw that I've ever experienced in a car. I mean, I literally have to push it right the way down, and I'm a little on my tiptoes to get full throttle. It's very unusual. The clutch isn't quite as bad. It's that accelerator. It's quite stiff. So at the moment for this test drive, we're just going to be toddling along, part throttle most of the way. But yeah, that's no problem. I mean, unlike the Chimera and the Griff, this isn't one for blasting about country lanes, and I think they're about 145 horsepower, so they're obviously not quick. 2.8 injection, so I mean it sits quite happily, just 2,000-3,000 revs there, pulling out of bends, but it's certainly not something for hitting off the red line and seeing how quick you can make progress. It's just not about that. So how does it sound? Does it sound good? Well, obviously not as good as the V8 ones, because you've got a V6 under the bonnet there. The exhaust is a little bit drony, I think, on this one. So sitting there, 45, 50 mile an hour, 2,000 revs. As soon as you put your foot down, it's a little bit drony for my liking. I don't know if it's standard, I'll need to check. Gearbox, well, I actually quite like the gearbox in this. Dare I say it, it feels a wee bit better than the LT77 in the Griff. You've got a little bit of a longer throw, but it doesn't have that woolly feel about it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I really like that. I'm guessing it probably goes directly into the box. It's very direct. There doesn't seem to be any play or anything in this one. So very precise, which is good. And then clutch, as I mentioned earlier, the clutch is pretty heavy on this one. But yeah, you just have to adjust your driving style if you're going from a Griff into this. A wee bit more movement to get the gears, but they do seem a little bit easier to select. So steering, non-power assisted in this one. I find you're having to battle a little bit less to keep this one in a straight line on a rough, bumpy country road like this. So that's no bad thing. I would say suspension is a good bit softer than that Griff as well. It seems to be soaking things up a little bit better. So I think, they're probably just designed a little bit less sportily than the Griffs and Chimeras are. But yeah, it is a totally different driving experience to those cars. I mean, there's about 10 years difference in age, I guess, which explains that. But I would say this is more of a comfortable cruiser rather than a B-road blaster like the Chimeras and Griffs are. In terms of brakes, there is a good bit more pedal travel in this than I noticed in the Griff. So that takes just a little bit of getting used to. Certainly if you're wanting to stop the car quickly, and obviously no ABS, as you would expect on one of these. And steering is painfully heavy when you're manoeuvring around like this. Let's see if we can find reverse. Seems to be pushed down and up to the left. Yeah. So these type of manoeuvres are a challenge, because it is a very heavy car to manoeuvre at these speeds, because you've got that heavy clutch, you've got the accelerator which is miles away, and very heavy steering. So it's definitely not a town car. It is very difficult getting that bite and getting it to pull away with the weight of the accelerator, I'd say. Right, so what's it like in terms of performance? Right, we'll get a straight bit of road. That's us there in a second. Yeah, so I mean, it's alright. It's obviously not quick, the 140 odd brake. I think it is reasonably torquey though. Like I said, it's sitting there, fourth gear, 2,000-3,000 revs. Seems to pull along quite nicely. I would say just don't expect to be racing anybody away from the traffic lights in this one. It's a definite sweet spot between 2 and 3,000, fourth gear on this country road. Yeah, pulls it along nicely rather than having to extend up the rev range. So that's where it's most comfortable, I'd say. So is it the type of car that you would want to grab the keys every night and go out for a blast in the country and then stick another tank in and do it again the next night? For me, I would probably say no. It's a nice experience driving one, and it would probably be very nice to own one, take it to shows, meet up with the local clubs and groups, but as for something that when you get in from work you'd be dying to take out for a blast, so probably not, I would say. So for me, this would definitely be a show car, I think, rather than one for taking out and having a good bit of fun blasting about B roads in. So everything's within good reach. Your heated controls, your music, hazard warning lights for when you break down, which you will break down, in a 1980s TVR. Yeah, it's not that bad, but joking aside, yeah, you need to know where that one is. I do like the boxy setup in here. You know, it is really very period. Right guys, so what do you think of the soundtrack? V6, Ford V6. Not getting too much engine noise through. Most of it's drowned out, I think, by the tailpipes there, which is interesting. I mean, yeah, you do hear a bit of that engine. It's not the worst sounding engine, but again, I wouldn't say it's the best sounding V6 out there. Put in the comments, what do you reckon? Too much exhaust and not enough engine noise? Probably being overcritical. Right, so what were my thoughts on the Tasmin? Well, I had high hopes for this. When I turned up, I mean, it got pulled out the garage, and I mean, this car looks stunning. I mean, it's undeniably a really, really nice looking car, really sporty. It just shouts 1980s. It's the right colour, it's in red, it totally stands out, and this one is in really, really nice condition. So in terms of looks and appearance, you're not really going to beat it if you want a rare early 80s two-seater sports car. Where I didn't gel with it too much was the way that it drove. So it is just a 2.8 V6, but you can excuse the fact if they're not that fast. But yeah, I struggled to gel with it a little bit on the drive. The pedals and the controls were really, really heavy. There was that long throw on the accelerator. It wasn't the kind of car you wanted to work hard, so it's more just a cruiser. So I feel that although it ticks the boxes for the looks, it doesn't really tick the boxes for the way it drives, and that's not a result of the performance, just, you know, the way it feels when you drive it. The interior is lovely, a beautiful trim job that's been done, and it's not too uncomfortable to drive. The seats are actually fairly decent, but would I buy one? Probably not. Would I buy one to look at it in the garage? Possibly, if I had some spare money. So I hope you've all found this review useful and interesting, and please remember to like and subscribe, and thanks very much to the owner for letting me borrow his pride and joy. See you all for the next one.